And Mike, are you recording? Is Mike co-hosted? Yep, good. Okay. So, hello everyone and welcome. Just a reminder that this is not an AA meeting. It's one member's take on the 12 steps and the exact nature of the wrong. And today, I'm very happy to tell you that we're doing a special sponsorship Q&A, and we're going to be looking at sponsorship and how it works with the 12 steps. And just a reminder that this meeting is being recorded, and it's also, as we speak, being streamed live on Facebook. And if you are watching on Facebook, the Zoom number's there. If you want to join us in the Zoom room, you certainly can. The numbers are there. But also you can ask questions on the Facebook page if you want, if you've got any questions about sponsorship or indeed anything to do with the 12 steps today. And just a reminder, this is not an all-share meeting. And as I said, it's a Q&A, and today we're doing a Q&A on sponsorship. And now for details, just as a sideline, for details on all of Paul's events, he does a lot of stuff. He's got a great book called Under Arrest, A-Rest. He's got that book, he's got a couple of other books, he's got t-shirts, and there's lots of other videos, and you can find them all on his website, which is at zenbitchslap.com. Or you want to see some of those videos, it's also all there on YouTube. So if you just type into your search engine on YouTube, Paul Hedderman, no doubt it will show up. Now, today, as it's a sponsorship thing, I've got a reading that I've got that I'd like to do. So if you've got your big books there, you can follow me, and it's on page 365. It's one of the stories from the chapter, the story called Tightrope. And it starts halfway down the page on the second paragraph as it was. So it goes like this. I did not fall in love with AA at first glance. The man who took me to my first meeting later became my first sponsor, and he had to put up with objections, arguments, questions, and doubts. Everything a trained but very muddled legal mind could throw at him. He was gentle with me. He did not push his opinions on me. He had the sense to see that I was so afraid and so used to being alone that I could not face a hard sell approach. He listened to my questions, answered some, and suggested that I could best answer others myself. He refused to argue, but was willing to explain and share his own experiences. I had asked him to be my sponsor before I knew what he did for a living, and felt I could not back out of the relationship when I discovered he was a minister. My alcoholism and my lifestyle had led me to reject the religion and the God of my upbringing. I had never replaced them. Instead, I was an agnostic, doubting the existence of God, but afraid to say so in case I was wrong. My self-pity and sense of victimization led me to doubt that a caring God could exist. If he did, why had he given me so many problems? I was very wary of the members who talked of their spiritual lives. My sponsor was a living damper on my intolerance. But even more, he told me that it would be all right for me to doubt God, that AA was not a religious program, and to belong I did not have to adhere to any set of beliefs. He suggested that for me, a good starting point would simply be recognition of the fact that I had failed in running the world. In short, acceptance of the fact that I was not God. He also suggested that I might try occasionally to act as if I believed. Somewhere I had heard that it is easier to act yourself into a new way of thinking than to think yourself into a new way of acting. And this made sense in the context of acting as if. And there you go. So if you want to cogitate on that, but that's just to reference again, that's page 365, 366 of the big book. Over to you, Paul.
Yeah, full alcoholic.
You're muted.
I went to the wrong.
I think you're muted there, Paul.
His volume, he has problems with his volume sometimes.
Can you hear me?
It's very loud.
Yeah, I got you now.
Let me put it up a little. I missed the reading. I think the book I have has it on a different page, but I sort of get it.
Yeah.
So the topic today that I will attempt to stay on is sponsorship. So my experience of sponsorship when I came in was the way I would judge people would be if I would get high with them or not. Yeah, so basically I was concentrating on the differences, and most people I met in AA I wouldn't get high with. So I wasn't listening to too much advice on a specific one-to-one manner. I was soaking in what I was hearing, and thoroughly identifying with the description of alcoholism. Yeah. So a man appointed himself to be my sponsor. Of course, there's no. My feeling is the real event is sponsoring. There's the emphasis on sponsor and sponsee really misses the activity of sponsoring, which is happening all day, really, from a lot of different sources. But, and obviously there is no sponsor or sponsee without the verb of sponsoring. So if the person isn't taking the suggestions that you're offering and seeing if they work or not, then there's no real sponsor or sponsee. Yeah, they can be in name only, but it's not really the transmission of the higher power working through us isn't really connected, so to speak. So I pretty much just avoided this guy. I didn't really listen to him much. I wouldn't get high with him, which was my qualification. And but then after a few months, I realized, I could call him and talk about stuff. And I started to come around. I was thawing out, from that deep freeze of isolation. And I started to see, hey, I feel a little better after talking to this guy. And I slowly came to believe a value in sponsorship, sort of like step two. I came to believe that it was working. So he hadn't even done an inventory himself, really. He was just running ahead of me a few months. And so when he introduced me to the inventory, we didn't even do the sex. We just did resentment and fear to begin with. And it really didn't matter because something was working through him and something that was working in me were connecting. And so the emphasis on sponsorship and stuff, I'm more emphasizing on sponsoring, and I don't have any really way that I do it. It's based on a personal relationship, each and every person, and I just watch what works. Something comes through you, and some people you put them on a dime to do something. Other people you will let them get an understanding, because I think it's very important through the fourth step that we get an understanding of our role in things. I think it's incredibly important. And if you speed people through certain things and they don't get that sense of their role in things, I think we've missed the point, so to speak, because there is a condition that we need to be in. And I think the sponsor hopefully has the way of diagnosing that, which is being convinced. Yeah, and because being convinced opens you up for the next step, so to speak. So, like the question, like the sentence we always use on 64, being convinced that self manifested in various ways is what has defeated us. You hope that by doing the inventory, you will become convinced, because truly most people aren't convinced because they don't know what self is or self isn't. Yeah, so there needs to be a clarification of that, and that usually comes through in time in the program. So a lot of times you're not convinced when you enter the step, let's say the fourth step, but by doing the fourth step and the fifth step, it leads you to being convinced. Yes. So and I think that's a very, very important foundation. So the people I sponsor now, they're older people. We're not really, it's more like a friend talking to a friend. But then sometimes when I'm listening to some of my sponsees, because I have a responsibility as a sponsor, I have to jump in there and point something out that if I was just hanging out with them having coffee, I wouldn't do. And if they were just someone I knew. But because I have a responsibility, I have to point out the glaring elephants in the room, so to speak, when we're living as if there is no third step and there's nothing, and we're still under the old employer. So there needs to be a pointing out in that job. So yeah, sponsoring is very important in a lot of various ways. And when you lead someone through the steps, you see the steps in a different light, which is very good. Yes? while leading someone through the steps, you get a whole new comprehension of the steps. So it's very powerful. And if you're lucky enough to hear people's fifth step, it's another very powerful thing, to feel as if you're holding the space for something very, very profound, where someone really, hopefully, in an action amidst their vulnerability, and shares stuff that they were pretty much never going to share. And I feel like you have a job from your own experience, strength, and hope. You can point out some of the patterns of how self has defeated them, because you've seen those patterns in your own life. So I hope that, but yeah, I don't like some people I meet, I'm just not, I wouldn't fulfill the requirements they need. Like they may need a drill sergeant, and I know I'm not going to do that. Yeah. Or they need to check in with someone every 3 hours. I'm not going to do that probably. Yeah, I assume, or I would like to assume, that they want to be sober. Yeah, that's one thing. I do. I mean, if you don't want it, I'm going to move to the next possibility. I don't, that's not up to me to convince them they should want it. It's not, I would think I would leave that up to life. It would do a much better job. And so, yeah. And I think, the sponsoring is just as good for the sponsor as the sponsee. Yes, you're not the great pontificator, and the source of grace and inspiration you're not the well of that source. Yeah, you're just being used by a power greater than yourself. Yeah, just like in a lot of other occasions. Because a lot of times people get caught up with like the stable of sponsees they have and stuff. Like they want to, it's like, prize heifers. I've got 33 sponsees at the moment, and it's sort of like the county fair, and they're displaying, they come to a meeting with like a flock of ducks, following, I rather have, to me, this way allows you to go in your own way, so to speak, in the larger this way. I don't want people following me. They were dependent on drugs, now they're dependent on me. That's crazy. The only true dependence or reliance is on a higher power. Yeah. Let's be clear about that. So this is just one person's opinion. I don't see it as, I'm not in the act of collecting sponsees or a super grand sponsee and then, the grand sponsee. I don't feel like lineages are that important, tell you the truth, whatever. Yeah, so I feel I'm ready and available. I don't say yes to everyone that asks me to be a sponsor, because I check out, I'm not willing to do some stuff, yeah, and I don't think it's a make or break for my sobriety if I do it or don't, yeah. I think someone else could do a better job, and especially if I think it's good to go to this, to go to some of the same meetings and see the person while you're in the program, in the community. I don't like to do it, distance. I don't want to do it by phone, really. I like, if you can, contact with the person. Yeah, physical, checking it out. So, yeah, you come to understand how you've been used in the past, and you're willing to be used. So basically, if you're called upon, you'll do it. Yeah, yeah. But I think a lot of people, it's appropriate to be in a boot camp for a while. And yet I'm very clear I'm not a drill sergeant. Yeah, so I pass on that opportunity, and I'll sometimes direct them to someone I know that would be a better fit. Yeah, and I don't like the idea of sponsoring women if you're a man. I'm not that into that much. Yeah, I try to follow some of the recommendations, and yeah. I think, if you get caught up in the sponsee, you'll miss a lot of sponsoring going on. Yeah, you can be sponsored by the person you're sitting next to at a meeting. You know what I
Mm.
mean? Doesn't have to have like I don't have a name tag. Paul, I'm being sponsored by. I'd say I'm being sponsored by the higher power through the auspices of Joe or someone. Yeah, I wouldn't say it's Joe sponsoring me. Really. So, yeah.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Paul. And now I'm inviting, if you've got any questions on sponsorship or you want some tips, then please raise your hand, or anything to do with recovery in 12 steps, please do. I've got a question just before any hands raised. I've noticed in, like, when we spoke about doing this particular on this topic, this session on this topic, that sponsorship isn't actually mentioned in the big book in the first 164 pages. And I'm not an AA historian, so I don't exactly know what it was, but is it, what did they used to call it? Was it just like you had a friend, you had a mate or a pal that would take you through the steps? How did that? Do you know how that worked? Does anyone know how that worked?
How they called it. It worked, but
Paul,
how
you're
they
muted again.
it worked obviously. Because there's AA now. But how they called it, I don't know. Maybe mentoring or whatever.
Okay. So what do you?
That
Sorry.
is the basic thing that sponsorship spins from is the idea that I need to hear the message, you need to carry it. You need to hear the message, I need to carry it. Yeah, it's a symbiotic little energetic maelstrom that feeds on itself. Yeah, so one
Mhm.
alcoholic helps another, and then it goes into definitions of sponsorship, but basically that's the primary energetic contact. Yeah, one alcoholic helping another.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's very important to know that you need to hear the message as much as you need to carry the message. They're both. They're not like you're the great carrier of the message and you don't need to hear it. Yeah, it's interchangeable. Yes. Yeah. Let me
You
close
can
this
always.
door. The
Yeah.
dog is getting a
There's a
message.
cat barking. Yeah. Yeah.
The dog's getting the message. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. He's rabid. And I've noticed, it's like you said before, like you alluded to, that there's certain people are better at sponsoring at different stages. And because I can vividly remember when I first came in, there was a guy that had relapsed, and there was one guy that went round and brought him food and brought him drink, and he was back, and managed to get him out. And it seems to be there's a lot of those sort of people at the gateway who are good at sponsoring in the early days. Perhaps I don't know if that's your experience, and what kind of people are they? I mean,
Right.
are these people necessarily closer
Like
to
the intensive care
to
nurse.
to their last drink than perhaps you are when you get a few years under your belt? I don't know what your experience is like.
They're the intensive care nurses.
You're muted again.
Then you have the ICU nurses, then you have the floor nurses, then you have the operating table nurses. There's different roles, and different people play them at different times. No one's stuck in the same role. Yeah, yeah,
Mm,
yeah. The drill sergeant move on to something else a lot of the times. Yeah, they get an easier, softer way. Yeah, we're being used and bring us. Let's say if you have tendencies to be a somewhat of an authoritarian, it gets to put to be it's put to good use in certain situations. Yeah,
mm,
most times you
mm,
wouldn't like the idea of a drill sergeant, but it works in recovery for people at times. So it's incredible. Yeah. So I feel any
mm,
quality that you have can be amplified. And even if it's called a bad one, in the auspices of recovery, it'll be used to be a good one. Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah.
mm.
You know what I mean? Some of the shit
Yeah.
sponsees put up with from sponsors, you wouldn't put up with after 10 or 20 years. Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah. So that person
mm,
who likes to boss people around finds a niche in AA. It's great. They get that little aspect of them is put to good use because some people need drill sergeants. Yeah, they need to be ordered to do something, or have a fear of their sponsor as if it's gonna, they're gonna get punished if they don't do it. Yeah, we find, uh, people come in with a lot of different emotional, mental dynamics, and uh, being all tools. Because what does an employer mean? It's to use, yes. An employer is to use. So we're under a new employer, and that employer is going to use what you would think aren't talents, yeah, to advance this message. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. So I found people that, you'd probably bring them up on charges if they abused you at work the way they're abusing people who are sponsees in a sense. But it seems to work. The people stay sober. Yeah. So all power to them. Yeah. I
In your
have my
own, in your,
There's groups that have, I don't want to go into personal stuff, but I went to a meeting once where people would get up and give great gratitude to their sponsor, and then to God, and then to AA. And it was almost like a worshiping of a person. Yeah. And they had like 1,200 people there. And it was like a whole thing of this one guy was the focus, a guy in the program. And when they went up, everyone shared, thank him first, then God, then AA. I swear to God, I sat there the
right.
whole time. Now, that's not my cup of tea, but it must have been for 1,200 people. It's the largest meeting I've ever attended, really. The
Wow.
largest regular meeting I've ever attended. I think it had 11. They had their own valet, parking valets. There was a huge little thing, and they had a figurehead. They did. It was, yeah, he was the dude. That something came through. Yeah. Now, a lot
Yeah.
of them are probably still sober, so it worked.
Mm.
Do I like the
Mm.
way it went? It just seems weird to me, but it worked. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do not know the workings of the higher power. It's a mystery. But hey, if they're sober and they're being of use and they're happy, joyous, and free, fucking all power to it. Yeah. Fucking, I
Yeah.
wouldn't care if followed Bozo the Clown and you looked at his picture all day. Like my mother. My mother didn't care. When I met this guru from India, my mother from Hell's Kitchen in New York City, an old Irish, she wrote a letter to the newspaper, Newsday in Long Island, and sang the praises of the guru. She says, I don't care who it is, as long as my son is sober and happy, fucking all fucking great gratitude towards the guru. This is my Irish mother. It was great. It was like on a big editorial opinion page. She could care less who I was. I mean, who that person was. All she saw that I was happy and I was sober. That's all she cared about. Yeah,
Yeah.
not in the
Yeah.
same. Yeah. So
Mm.
this power works in strange ways, and if you take a position and you get identified as that position, you're probably gonna get knocked off of that position. Really. Yeah, that's the way it happens, doesn't it? Yeah. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Mm.
I feel.
Just sorry.
Hold on, there's another sound. Hold on.
Are they drilling the dog? Mm.
That's a. Yeah.
I hope they.
But
Sorry,
remember,
Vicky.
here and here is just is opinions. I'm not speaking about the exact nature of the wrong. I'm just sharing opinions of looking at what's going on here. Yeah. So this is a different type of meeting. I don't have huge opinions about how to sponsor. I believe it's a you're suggesting things, and then you hope the person gives them a try, and then you take an honest assessment if it works, so they continue to follow those suggestions, so they will turn into habits, and they'll end up being in the habit of being sober. If they don't take the suggestions I'm offering, because they're not my suggestions, they came about through the program, then I send them to someone else. And maybe they'll hear the same suggestions, but from a different voice and follow them. Yeah. The whole point is for the sponsee to follow some of the suggestions to see if they work. That's the whole point. Yeah, I feel.
Mhm.
Yes. And then hopefully those same suggestions that you offered, which aren't yours, that guy or woman will offer them to someone else. And this is the passing on of the torch of recovery. Yeah. Coming from the book, coming from the principles. Yeah. Honed and clarified by experience, strength, and hope. Yeah. We pass it on. And that's in the way, that's how we have it, is by giving it away. Yeah. But it doesn't have my name stamped on it. Yes. It doesn't. It's anonymous in a way. It comes from the program and it moves through the program and it arrives as part of the program. Yes? I don't become a big player in it. I don't. Yeah? Hopefully. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why people say, this is my message. It's not my message. Something has come through and I've been listening to it just as much as some of you have. Yeah. I didn't have this message. I sort of learned about it by having it come through. Yeah. And it was put to a test of living for many, many years. And I'm pretty much confident and have faith in it because it seems to have its own reverberation. It's just, and I think truth pulsates. I do. I don't think truth has to be, I think truth has its own pulsation, its own life. Yeah. So I came upon some ideas and I've offered them with the hopes that they'll you know, do somehow in their own way through you what they've done through me. I don't saying this is how it has to look when it comes to you. I don't know how it's going to look. That's the beauty of it. Yeah. Then don't tell me there's no uniform. There's no regimented idea. It's like you hear the message and then see where it takes you. Yeah. Yeah. The subpoena doesn't come with a dress code. Yeah. It's a spiritual subpoena. It doesn't say how you have to wear it, how you have to look, how you have to dress. It has no opinion on that. It's just hear it, let it land, and see what it does. Yeah. Now, hopefully, it will illuminate whatever lifestyle you're in. Yeah. To see the bad and the good of it. Yeah. Not the bad or the good, or the working and unworking. Yeah. So that maybe and hopefully it will cause a leaning towards what works and a leaning away from what doesn't work. Yeah. Yeah, so sponsorship is a great joy because, of course, like everything else in recovery, as it talks about, you take 2 steps and it's answered by 30 steps. Yeah, it's just the way it works. So if you're open to be able to be used, there's a lot of side benefits in that. Yeah, yeah, and of course you get a whole new understanding of the steps when you help someone through them. So it's great. You get another aspect of it all. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I hope everyone in their own way and not it's just like step 11. There is not only 2 ways to improve one's conscious contact. They were 2 suggestions, not 2. It's only through prayer and meditation. And the point isn't prayer and meditation. The point is to improve one's conscious contact. The point of sponsoring isn't to be a fucking sponsor. It's the act of sponsoring. Yes?
Yes.
So this is the point. So if you're not a good sponsor, so fucking what? Put the chairs up. Yeah? Do something else. Oh, no one ever asked me to sponsor you. All right, far out. Some people are picked on that level and others aren't. That doesn't mean a damn freaking thing. You're still open to be used. You're not lacking because you don't have any sponsors. If there's a willing to sponsor, that's most of the fucking access it opens up. Yeah, you're willing to. That's the point. Yeah.
Fantastic. I know Mike's got his hand up. I just want to follow up just on one question. It's always occurred to me. Sorry, go on.
We don't set up checkpoints and ask everyone, how many sponsors do you have? Sponsees do you have? There's no checkpoints. You don't have a card listing the names and how long they've been sober. That's the fuck. What is that? This is a program of anonymity, really. Yeah. Great works occur, and your name doesn't go on the great works. You know what I mean? That's the greatest of the works, is the underlying humility underneath it. Yeah, that's the greatest of the works, is the humility. And it says it in our book quite a lot. It's the biggest aspect, yeah, of anonymity. It's a huge aspect in this program. We give great thanks to the higher power. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Of course, and the head, of course, anything it comes in contact with, it can use. You know, I've seen people who got sick with too many sponsees. And they had nervous breakdown because they weren't taking care of the big elephant in their own room. Yeah, so it's not all good and not all bad. We're the joker in the deck. Yeah, we, through us, is the meaning given to things. Yeah, really. And that's difficult to calculate or pick up with numbers. You can't represent it. It's the feeling of living. Yeah. You can't capture that by how many heifers you have or whatever. Yes. It's a different, it's like a huge amount in an account book you never read. Yeah. You never read the account book. Yeah. There's just an assurance of okayness. Yeah. You don't have to verify it. You feel it. Yeah. Yeah. A lot of times we're doing a lot in the beginning of recovery to really tithe to the older God, really. Yeah. We have to get some self-esteem because we feel so fucking shitty. Yeah. So we do esteemable acts and we start coming out of that deep cloud, that deep weather front. And then things change a little more. You're not trying to produce an okayness, you're living from an okayness. It's different. You're not going to the boss of all bosses to see if you can watch an hour TV show because you've done enough today. There's that whole winning your ability to be okay, earning your ability to be all right. That gets dismissed, hopefully. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So there's so many different stages, and that's the beautiful thing. AA really has a huge open door policy, not just to allow people in, but to allow shit to grow out. Yes. Yes. There's so much growth, and AA can be there all the way. You don't have to move to a super special higher thing. AA allows is a huge umbrella. You can bring non-duality into it and it thrives. Yeah, you can bring Buddhism, they're doing everything. Yoga, they have people who are yoga people and they do it with the 12 steps. They have refuge recovery with Buddhism. They're just AA is a very, very uh, large, open. It's not, and you can't judge AA by the people in it, yeah, because AA is wide open. Really, it's a way of life, and it allows a lot of ways of life to come into it. Yeah, yeah, I
Mm.
feel so. I mean, a lot of times, if you got involved in something else, it would sort of either overtly or covertly say you've got to lose whatever you got to leave whatever else you were in to really be in this. AA doesn't fucking say that. Yeah, people in AA may say it, but AA doesn't. Yeah, it says spiritual people have a lot to offer. All this shit has a lot to offer. Fucking get it. Bring it back. Bring it back. Yeah. This isn't like, oh, well, I'm getting a whole lot of out of this thing and it tells me I have to leave everything else. And AA's not saying that. You can be a Buddhist in AA, Jew, Catholic. It doesn't matter. It's not like you got to drop all that. No, is there? You cannot have any allegiance other than to AA. It's not like that.
Mm.
It's a broad road. I mean, it's a way of life. It encompasses a lot of ways of life. Yeah. It's not the way of life, it's a way of life. But this way of life allows a lot of other ways of life to find more life in them. Yeah? They find more life in this way of life. That's awesome, yeah? It's not like you rip off the old uniform and you got to, it's just sort of like, wow, you get sober and then you go back to Buddhism and then you see a whole lot more. Yeah? Because now you're not using Buddhism to get out of self. You've recognized you're not self, and then you see Buddhism in a whole new light. Yeah? Oh, yeah, yeah. So I think really the greatest sponsoring is attraction, not promotion. Yeah.
Mm.
I remember my life has been moved when I was going to a meeting early on in recovery, and I saw these two people shared, and they were lit up. Yeah, you could see something was going on, and I asked them, and they told me they had been to this Joe and Charlie thing. So I made it a point the next time I heard about the Joe and Charlie seminar coming to Sacramento, I signed up. No one said much to me. I saw it in them. I saw that something had happened, and they said it happened by being at this Joe and Charlie. I was very keen on going to that seminar because I wanted what they seemed to have. Yes?
Mhm.
Yeah. I didn't get bombarded by advertising. Go to the next Joe and Charlie. They weren't trying to draft me. It became very attractive by what the people, I could see them. They were lit up. Yeah. Yeah. So, mm. And again, if you're asking about sponsoring, I do not sponsor people in non-duality recovery. I don't. You know what I mean? I don't have a non-duality recovery plan. I tell them the same thing it says to do in the book, basically, of AA. So it's not like there's a special concoction. No. Hopefully it's infused by the fact of non-duality, but it's not distilled and turned into something else. Yeah? Yeah. Yes. I want to practice the non-self way of recovery. Well, do the steps. Do service. It sounds just like the other way. Yeah, exactly. We're dealing with the action figure. The action figure, if you cross the line, I'm not saying everyone has. If you're a real addict and an alcoholic, you need a way of life. A philosophy ain't gonna work. And you know,
Mm.
a weekend once a month ain't gonna work. You're gonna need a way of life. Yeah. Heavy drinkers can stop if they have a sufficient enough reason. There's no sufficient enough reason to stop as an addict, a real addict, an alcoholic. There's tons of reasons, but it doesn't work. That's a different beast, yeah?
Mm.
We're assuming everyone's a real alcoholic, but a lot of people aren't. They're not. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
They're heavy drinkers, maybe extremely heavy, but if they have a kid or they get married, it may be sufficient enough. There's some people, and you know it usually when you cross that line, you're a real addict and a real alcoholic. There I do see a difference. Yeah. It's not like pure awareness and awareness. I don't see a difference in any of that. But I do see a difference in alcoholism. There is a crossing of a line that puts you in a different category. So when you go into the hospital, you should immediately go to the intensive care unit. Yeah, you need, you know what I mean? It's just, it shouldn't be, put them on the third floor. No. Yeah, they need to, need to, yeah. Yeah.
Well, man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I thought I was an alcoholic my whole life, but that wasn't true. Yeah. When I was 20 years old, I got introduced to a spiritual way of life, and it was sufficient to keep me from using and drinking for 4 or 5 years. Maybe I had a couple of Heinekens in all those years. Yeah. But when
Yeah.
I got disillusioned, yeah, in that way of life, I went back to drinking and using, and then there was a line crossed, and there was no, God wasn't sufficient enough reason. I couldn't stop drinking. I couldn't stop using. Yes, I had been completely taken over by a parasite. It's very important to have the right diagnosis. It is, truly. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah, very important. So I had that story, but really, there was a line crossing, and there was no going back after that. And then it led to the only way things were going to change was through a divine intervention. I had to be struck sober because getting run over by a car didn't do it. Being incarcerated didn't do it. 10 months in a hospital bed didn't do it. My mother's love didn't do it. The state's threats didn't do it. Nothing did it. Yeah. No human power could do it. No human reason could promote it. So basically, I was one of those characters, yes. I was gonna destined to be in institution, jails, and death the rest of my life, probably thinking I don't just I shouldn't I'm not a person who should be in institution or jail. But being in an institution and jail probably quite a lot of my life until something happened, yeah. That's how it was going, really. So, I mean, and nothing seemed to change that was going to change that. Yeah. So I think a clear diagnosis of our condition gives us the ears to hear a lot of suggestions. Yeah. Because we're in a state of being convinced. We're clear we're not managerial quality and we fucking need direction. We do. Not the direction we've been following, but a new form of direction. Yeah. And a lot of that may come through a sponsor. But, you know, I had the ears to hear when I came in. I did not come in and get sober. I got struck sober and then I came in. The way of life to stay sober was introduced to me. Yeah. I was not 12 stepped. Yeah. I was divinely intervened on and then consequences brought me to my first meeting, I've never stopped going. 33 years. Yeah. So my origin concerning recovery was divinely ordained, so to speak. But that being struck sober would have died on the vine if I hadn't been introduced to a way of life. I'm sure of that. I'm sure of it. I'm sure many of us have walked over so many possibilities for a turn in our life and have no memory that we walked over them because the narration just hides all that shit. But that one didn't happen because I was brought to an AA meeting that night and I was given hope. Yeah. I was just there the other day, right where it was, the Salvation Army on Cesar Chavez and Valencia. That was where I went, that meeting, first one. And I felt hope when I left. And the next morning, I realized I wasn't going to make it till 8 o'clock. So I called this AA thing up and I asked them, is there an earlier meeting? And they told me there was a noon meeting, and I went to that. And I probably went to one at 8 o'clock also. And I just never stopped going. Yeah. And the idea of sponsorship, everything else came about. And I've been, I've ended up in the habit of being sober, really. Hallelujah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
So
I hope somebody wrote that down. That's amazing. Thank you very much, Paul.
the sponsor and the sponsor isn't that huge a deal to me, really. I've always felt there was some power coming through people. Yeah, I was with a guy, Cy P, a very famous dude in AA in San Francisco. Lovely guy. Yeah, it wasn't Cy P. You know what I mean? Something was coming through him. I've always felt that. Yeah. Yeah. I don't pledge my allegiance to a person. I pledge my allegiance to spirit coming through the person. Yes. Yeah. The person can fail you easily. Yeah. That spirit won't. It's just that simple. So, yeah. So,
Okay. Wow. Thank you very much. I'm glad we've recorded this. This is going to be available on YouTube as well, and as on Zen Bitch Slap. I think, Mike, you had your hand up. Mike Zed, do you want to ask your question, mate, or do you want to? I'm sorry about that. Just asking you to unmute there, Mike. No. Okay. Volta Hockfordama. How about you, mate? Do you want to unmute? There you go. Volta's got a question.
Unmute. Okay. Yeah, I'm here.
There you go.
Okay. Good evening.
Hello.
I still see you, David. You're in the picture, David. I don't see Paul.
I'm here.
He's here, not me.
Okay, get with you. Okay, yeah, there you go. Yeah, Paul. Okay, about sponsorship and sponsee. From over here, I find it sometimes very confusing. I had my sponsors and they had their sponsors, and the sponsor was completely, after tons of sobriety, just completely fucked up, just fucking crazy. I at a certain moment left the rooms because I saw so much confusing stories between sponsees and sponsors and the whole thing going on. I left the rooms. Okay, was probably not a good idea because I went back to drinking, came back into the rooms, and I found it a very difficult subject to help people out. I help people out, privately in the rooms and so on. And a lot of times I got damaged out of it. And a lot of times I actually got damaged out about trusting somebody in the fellowship. Probably it is me, but I just don't know.
It was you.
It's always me, yeah?
I was joking a little, but What we would do in recovery was see our role in it. But yes.
Yeah, I do see my role in it, but I notice also by doing these steps, in a lot of times I have the tendency to always blame myself, for everything,
Yeah.
and it's just not true, being feeling guilty and shameful about things I never did in the first place.
Yeah, there's a lot of sick people in recovery. Who would have think?
How is that possible?
And some of that sickness leaks into the processes of interrelationships with others. Yeah. Why do we have such a thing called the 13th step? Because it happens a lot. Yeah. So people who have not rubbing shoulders with a woman or someone or a guy who has much less time and has an agenda concerning that person that isn't the agenda of, oh, let's to achieve sobriety and practice these principles in all our affairs. It's to go horizontal, with the person. Yeah. A lot of stuff happens in this because there's people in it. Shit leaks out. Yeah. And a lot of times people who get in a position, some power game occurs. Yes. So maybe they had a resentment towards their father, and now they're playing it out on you as the unsuspected sponsee. I mean, this happens. Yeah, yeah. We're all sick. Like in the Course in Miracles says, there's a lot of unhealed healers. Yeah, there's a lot of unhealed healers. Now there can be a whole lot of healing going on when there's an admittance of being unhealed. Yeah. But if you think you've really got it going on, other things may be going through you. Yeah. Yes. Pride opens a lot of doors for other things to come through us. Yes. Yeah. So yeah, there's a lot of power plays occur. Sometimes there's a lot of power plays between a sponsee and a sponsor. Yeah. But that's a lot of times that's why there's so many different meanings. A lot of meanings get hatched by resenting other meanings. you know, you just don't like how it's going, and so you start your own meaning. Yeah, yeah. So
Mm.
yes, it happens.
Well, over here you always meet the same people. Over here you always meet the same people.
Yeah, no. I'm lucky. I've been mostly living near urban centers in my sobriety. Yeah, where in San Francisco area, it's a very alive community with a lot of influences and a lot of inspiration and a lot of different ways of seeing the program. It's pretty healthy, I feel. Yeah. And I usually have lived sort of near an urban center a lot of my sobriety. So I don't know what it's like to see the same people. I did once. I lived in a beach town and there was only three of us. So basically, you would go to the meeting and it was, yeah, I had to drive over the hill to go to San Francisco to get some variation, So I don't have an experience of always seeing the same people. So my feeling, I've been lucky in that respect. Yeah, yeah. I used to go to meetings in Thailand, and the meeting was strange. They didn't read a lot of the readings, and some people had strange ideas what sobriety was. It was not drinking hard liquor, but beer seemed to be okay. And it was I didn't agree with most of them, but I still sensed a presence in the meetings. Yeah. But most of them were all, and there was some Dutch characters there. Uh, happy. He was a merchant marine guy. He was great. But they had strange definitions of sobriety. I ran it into Australia too. We appointed a guy to be a secretary of a meeting, and then he starts sharing, and he said, "Oh, I went down to the pub, had a couple of schooners with my friends, and we had to talk to him. No, this is called abstinence. This is not drinking anything." So, you know, yeah, yeah. Remember, like the request in the fourth step is that perhaps to see these people are sick, just as we are. Yeah, yeah. We're not in the world of doctors. We're in the world of patients. All of us in recovery. Yeah, yeah. Hopefully, the emphasis won't be on the individual patient. It will be on the power coming through all of us. Hopefully. Yeah, yeah. So even an asshole at that point can be used beautifully. Yeah, but yeah. Yes, Walter. But the thing
Thanks,
is,
Walter.
if you cross that line, uh, it's like if there was a pill I needed, I wasn't gonna stop. I wouldn't stop going to the pharmacy because someone else was there. Yeah, the need to be at the pharmacy would be overriding. Yeah, and I feel that's what recovery was for me. I was it was very clear uh, that I was not managerial quality, and I needed what was offered through AA. And so, yes, yeah, yes. You know, a bad meeting is good in a way. It motivates you to look for another meeting. Yeah, yeah, and then you find ones that work. And I found ones, and I liked, in the beginning, I liked to go to a step meeting for sure, a big book meeting, and then go to some ID meetings, where people tell their story. But I'd always have different flows. The big book meetings I liked, and I liked the step meetings. And so you would go to different ways the meetings are run. Yeah, different flavors. Yeah, and that was really helpful because some were very educational. Reading the book with people out loud has some power. Yeah, and yeah, that's actually how I was at a meeting, and that's how they were reading We Agnostics, and I got stuck on that page 53. I couldn't believe it. I had never read it, I don't think. Yeah. So I heard it at a big book study, and then that thing of, without knowing it, had we not been brought to where we stood by a certain kind of faith, blew my mind. I mean, I had never heard it really emphasized, and it blew my mind because it's so incredible, the description of faith as a force in our lives. Yeah. So I'm going to just read it here. And this came from a big book study. Yeah. I was just sitting there in the audience. It was read, and I went back and I went home and I looked at it again. And it said, the bottom of page 53 in We Agnostics, without knowing it, having not been brought to where we stood by a certain kind of faith. For did we not believe in our own reasoning, which would be thinking, yes? Did we not have confidence in our ability to think? What was that but a sort of faith? Wow, an incredible idea of faith. He's touching around the edges. Yeah. Yes, we had been faithful, abjectly faithful to the God of reason, or let's say you've been trusting thoughts. Yeah, or there's been a great trust in thoughts. Yeah. So, in one way or another, we discovered that faith had been involved all the time. Wow. And now I've shared this at meetings of the Zooms, but it was brought to my attention by sitting at a big book study. Yeah. And I heard it. They shared it, and it was incredible. I couldn't believe it. I sat through the rest of the meeting, but I was quite interested in that one paragraph because I have a feeling about faith, and I felt it was captured and explained clearly in the Big Book of AA. So yeah. Perhaps we're sick, bro. Yeah. Beauty can come through us and ugliness can come through us because we are not beautiful nor ugly. Yeah. We're a conveyor. We're a conduit. We really are. So anger and hate can come through us, or love and compassion can come through us. Yeah. Yeah. It's truly based on what's employing you. Is it the old employer or the new employer? Yeah. If it's the old employer, take a look at the third step and recommit to yourself to this turning one's will and life over to the care of the new employer. Yeah. That gives recognizing the old employer value. Yeah. Because it leads you to reinforce the decision to rely on the new employer. Yeah. And then when you're relying on the new employer, uh, love and tolerance you can actually live by at meetings. Yeah. The meeting has a love and tolerance, but you individually can be loving and tolerant also, which is pretty cool. Yeah. Because a lot of time when new people come in and say, "Oh, it's wonderful. I don't feel like I'm being judged." They were judged by everyone in the room, but the love and of the collective overrode the individual condition. That's the beauty of recovery, yeah. We can override me, yeah, which is awesome. So I hope, yeah, you enter a sick ward, you're gonna probably run into some sick people. Don't. Hopefully, it won't run you out of the hospital because usually people who are sick are in sick wards, and recovery is, remember, a spiritual kindergarten. Yeah, we're not well. So yeah, yeah. Thank you all.
Thanks, Walter. Thanks, Walter. And just Walter, just so you know, mate, um, myself and some other people involved with this meeting run 4 Zoom meetings every day for AA that you can attend with people all over the world. So if you're sick of seeing the same old faces locally, then look in chat, mate, and I'll put the details. The Shivering Denizens do 4 meetings a day all over the world, 4 times a day, and they're really good European times where you are in Holland. Kurt put something really interesting in chat there, and I just wanted, Kurt, I think you wanted to make a point. Was there something you'd like to say?
Well, I heard this the other day. Hey, Paul. I heard I was speaking at a meeting the other day and I heard the same thing, and not to crosstalk Walter, but I heard this the other day, this same statement. And it says, I'm constantly blaming myself. And if you listen to self-talk, and let me clarify, self-talk, not my talk. If you listen to self-talk, it says I'm constantly blaming myself. It's not me blaming myself. It's the condition of self blaming me. And it was like that clarification was, this is on sponsorship. That was part of the sponsorship indirectly that I'd say you did for me, was like you clarified a misunderstanding that I kept telling myself that wasn't even true. And it was like, it's like the narrative. We always are talking about that friggin' narrative that it's not you, it's like, and then when you see it from a different viewing platform, it's almost comical.
Yes.
It's almost, you just go, my God, like I made major decisions from that viewpoint. For my family, for my children, for my business. And I think, oh my God, there has to be a God. Because some of those decisions that I made from that viewpoint were just ridiculous. So I just, that just kind of stood out because somebody said that in the meeting the other day. They said, I constantly am blaming myself. I said, honey, that's not what's happening. That's what you think's happening.
Yes.
Yeah. So anyways, that's just
That's what the thinking implies is happening. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like this. Let's say if you went to a news show to get your information, and the guy was Jim Carrey. He was there for a satirical position. Yes, it's not meant to be taken seriously like this shirt. Yeah. So the same thing with the head. You have to realize if you see it as a comic, it's pretty fucking funny. If you see it as like a judge or an authority or a newscaster, you're going to be misled terribly. Yeah. The same shtick. It's
Yeah.
just the we're the audience.
Yeah.
So,
Great point.
and the whole point about understandings are really to clear up misunderstandings. That's the only value. It's the story of, it was a famous story Ramana Maharshi used, which is you're walking down the road and something's bothering your your foot's bothering you, and then you stop and you look and there's a thorn in the sole of your foot. So you look around where you're sitting and you find another thorn, and you use the one thorn to dig out the other thorn. You don't replace the first thorn with the second thorn, you throw both of them out. So mostly we need a new understanding to correct the misunderstanding we're living from. Yes, basically. Both of them can be thrown out when you're relying on the higher power. Yes. That overrides understanding.
Yeah.
But first, we have a lot of misunderstanding. That gets taken out by a new understanding, hopefully, or at least contested by seeing it from a different platform, and then see what shakes out or not for you. Yeah, maybe you'll be convinced of this new understanding, and you'll have the eyes to see the misunderstanding of what you used to understand. Yes, hopefully. And then you don't get stuck on it, the new understanding. You're now in a sense of being, yeah, much more uh, fluid, yes, much more fluid and uncontainable. You can't sort of pack it into an understanding. It flows through it, but it can't be held by it, you know? Yeah. And it's sloppy, and the waves go over the banks and shit. And yeah, you might as well just realize you don't know. Yeah.
It's like we're constantly trying to protect that which we're trying to disregard, you know?
Well, yeah. Yes, exactly.
Mhm.
Yes, it's sort of all, it's a self fest, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
Self trying to get out of self, self trying to figure out self,
Yeah.
self trying to understand self. It's all self trying to get out of self. That's the whole performance.
Mm.
That's the whole performance of being in self is represented by self getting out of self. That's the whole performance.
Yeah.
It is being in self, but the whole way it's performed is self trying to get out of self. Trying to understand self. It just goes on. It's just a blatant obsession of self.
Well,
There's a loss of interest in the whole kit and caboodle as long as when you see it's not you.
yeah.
Not you that was is being understood, and it's not you that's understanding. It's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Paul.
Thank you, Kirkman.
Okay. Thanks very much, Kurt. It's good to see you. So, I don't think there's any more hands up, so I think we're ready to pack it in. So, thanks very much, Paul. I know you want to say goodbyes. Oh, hold on, Matthew Antwistle. Matthew's got a question. You got a question there, Matthew? Hold on, I'm asking you to unmute.
Hi guys.
Hey.
So I guess the other day, it's pretty funny that this is the topic, sponsorship, because I kind of had an experience the other day with well, I'm going to preface really quick. I've been in AA for like 2.5 years. I think immediately when I got in, I was fairly open to some of the ideas. Now, I guess I'm just I kind of hate to say it because it makes me sound like an ass, but I feel like I'm fairly analytical. And I found at times that sometimes that didn't really help me, and other times it did. Now I've been getting stuck on something with as far as sponsorship goes, and many people in the program with a lot more time than me will say, just don't drink, or like they'll say, okay, well, you need to do the 12 steps to stay sober. And I'm like, all right, well, what if I can't make it to fucking 12 without, putting something in me? And then one guy the other day said, don't drink. And I said, I thought I didn't really have that choice. And so I was pointing to the book. I think the guy had great intentions, but I was saying that it seems as though in so much of the book, it's saying that I don't have a choice, and that eventually it's not that I am fighting it, it's that I've ceased the fighting. And then they're like, stop overthinking it. I'm like, I don't feel like I'm overthinking it. I feel like I'm just kind of telling you what the book says. And I think this caused a lot of disruption, and not just necessarily say that being sponsored is bad, but I had this idea that I've been taken up to 10, and I was thinking about, I prayed one night. He said, just pray. And I prayed, and I don't know where this thought came from, but I was like, oh, what if I just work the steps? And like, just get really simple, because people kept telling me, keep it simple, keep it fucking simple. And I guess I read the book, and it just seemed like I ought to do it. And I guess my question is do you feel like after having some knowledge of the steps and how to work them, it says there's a reliance on God. And I just want to, I don't even know, I guess, why I'm asking, but I kind of want to work them myself, if that makes sense. And then of course, like 4 and 5, probably have somebody and things like that. But I'm just wondering if you've ever seen that work, or what you even think of it.
And my thing, just do it. Just do the steps. Yeah. Because to think about the steps is sort of the problem is going to have a say in the solution. So you just do the steps as they're put out there in the book, I feel. And then shit happens and more gets revealed. But just finish, 10 is something to try, is something you do a day at a time. You review your day, see if there was were you taken over by resentment, fear, or whatever. So you could see those are manifestations of self, and it's really a mini bringing it to step 6 and 7. So now you start using the steps, all the steps. Yeah. So step 10 has a lot of 6 and 7, because what you recognize, you see it as not you, and then you humbly ask that power to remove it. Yeah. And your state before that, you're entirely ready for it to be removed. Yeah. So there you go. And then 11, again, the goal of 11 is to improve one's conscious contact. There's 2 suggestions through prayer and meditation, but let's say the assumption is you're in constant contact with self, okay? So you need to do something to sort of get into contact with the conscious contact, yeah? So prayer and meditation. So then if you go to meetings, you pray twice a day, because we say 2 prayers at each meeting, yeah? So you've fulfilled that already. And then you start seeing when there's an improved conscious contact, it's more of a sense or a feeling, and you judge the tree by the fruit. So you do step 10 and step 11, and step 12 is you just agree with the agenda of recovery, which is to help other people achieve sobriety and practice these principles in all our affairs. And if you
Can't I
can't,
start 12 today? Like, isn't that something even as a newcomer or whatever you want to call it?
yeah, and if you can't practice these things in your affairs, limit the affairs for a while. That's all, and then you grow out of certain conditions and you grow into more healthy conditions. That's what the process is. As the action figure, we're not talking about the absolute, whatever. There's no one to surrender, and to whom would it surrender to? We're not talking in there. We're talking about action figure. Yeah, something that can hurt its knee by bumping into a chair, stuff like that. Okay, so the action figure at first, the keeping it simple is not to bring in that much thinking into it, obviously. Just do it. Just do the steps as they're laid out. Yeah. There's not that many thousands of interpretations of the 12 steps. It's basic, it's in the step itself. You just follow the directions of the book with the help of a sponsor, a friend, or whatever. And then, yeah, do step 10, 11, and 12. 10 is just a habit you do daily. You just do a little inventory. And you also do another aspect. You see, you honor the demonstration of the new way of life. Hey, I've had a great day. Write that. Yes. What? Yeah. I feel like I traveled rather well. I saw my family and I didn't flip out. So you put these, you honor the demonstrations, because the head will not honor the demonstration. The head will forget a miracle in a half an hour. You have to sort of make a little, like, temporary temple at that moment site and just honor it. Yeah, something is working for me. Something is doing for me what I couldn't do for myself. Yes? Keep acknowledging the basic theme of recovery, which is not self-reliance, but reliance on a higher power. Acknowledge recognizing those demonstrations, and those demonstrations will become more recognizable. Yes? When you start recognizing them. Yeah, so yeah, just do it as it's written, and remember, like a famous Zen stanza from Faith Mind, which stop cherishing your own opinions. Yeah, cherish your opinions about AA and meetings and shit like that, and just do it. Yeah, yeah.
Have you
That's
ever arrived to the conclusion following the path of thinking that, I guess, non-dualistic thinking leads to? Have you ever come to the conclusion that, like, the past as a thought form is perfect? Does that make sense?
Yes, but I don't believe non-duality thinking leads you to anywhere. Thinking can't be non-dual. It's impossible.
Fair enough. Thinking along I get what you're saying. Yeah.
By hearing notions of non-duality, there's some things that happen. Yes, yeah, and of course the past was perfect. That's why you don't need to shut the door on it nor regret it. Yeah, yeah. My simple ruler about the past is, if something was supposed to happen, it did, and if it wasn't, it didn't. So basically, I can have tons of stories why I shouldn't have been run over, but when I look at my leg, it's obviously I was run over. So
Twice.
next page. Yeah, yeah. I don't go over it. Why? Why? Why not? The head loves to work on. It just forgets a lot of convenient things. Oh, I did get run over. It likes to forget that and bemoan why it's not a professional boogie boarder. Well, run over by a car. Yeah, it's funny. All right. Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thanks, Matthew. Right, Paul. Thank you very much for a fantastic Q&A. This has been superb. I've got so much out of it. Thank you very much. Do you want to say your goodbyes?
Yes, I do. I want to, and I will. There's Kurt. Nice to
Yes.
see you, Kurt, as always. Hey, by the way, but just to mention, we're leaving on the 26th of August, which will be next Thursday. So next Thursday morning, there won't be a meeting.
Oh,
Uh, we'll put it on the website. It should be up there. And I'll be back
where are you going?
September. And I'm going to try to do a couple of ones when I'm over there. So look at the website. We'll post them, but I don't know exactly when. But I'll be in
Where are you
Italy.
going?
I'll be
Italy.
in Walter's time zone and shit. So yeah,
Wow.
we
Hot
may
for
do.
Doma.
Yeah, we may do one. I gotta sneak it. I'll be in a closet in Pescara doing in the Zoom.
Pescara is beautiful. Yeah. So there's no meeting next. There's no more. We're not having satsangs, or we're not having any 12-step reflection stuff for a couple of weeks. Then is that what you're telling me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Got that? You had it here first. Brilliant.
Yeah. So it's between August 26th to September 16th, and there'll be some like pop-up Zooms, and we'll just look on the website. We'll post them as soon as I get an idea of it. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
But yes. All right.
So last one. We'll have one on Tuesday, Paul. We'll have the last one on Tuesday then for a while.
Tuesday we have next Wednesday, next Tuesday. It's just not next Thursday.
Yep. Okay.
We'll be going to the airport, so
Cool.
yeah. So hopefully, anyway. All right. So Kurt, nice to see you, my friend. As always, thank you for your wisdom, not yours, but the wisdom. Yes. Mickey, nice to see you, Mickey. Yeah. David was he was the conduit from which these recovery meetings flowed. So yeah, give him a little bit of a thumbs up. Yeah, yeah.
Just a little one.
Yeah, Paul. Nice to see you, Paul, in the UK. Yes. PK from Long Island. Nice to see you, bro. Mike, seeing you soon, I'm sure. Yes, this weekend. We're going to be live on Saturday in Marin City, 1:30 Pacific time. Come down if you like. It's a nice old church. Not really. It's not that nice, but there's an ammonia soaked room that we do the talk in, and it'll be. We've been doing it for years there. So there's Tommy from Ireland. I think Tommy's from Ireland. I found out I finally got my CD working in the car, so I'll be listening to the blues today when I'm driving to the. Yes, Walter, as always, nice to see you. You have my WhatsApp, yes. So we'll try to get in touch. I think someone else may want to come down. Maybe I'll meet Vlad and you if we can pull it off in Italy somewhere. Roman can come, whatever. We'll see. There's Roman there. Nice to see you, Roman. Yep. Uh, we got Ruby in Wichita. Nice to see you, honey. We got Stefan on Having Never Left. We got Rich A from the UK. Nice to see you, Rich. We got Reed. Reed had a great share yesterday. He described the pickle, the spiritual pickle, very well. The spiritual conundrum. Yes. We got Kristen outside. Nice to see you, honey. Matthew, thank you for your participation. We got Alex and Jacob. Nice to see you guys and gals in the Hudson Valley. Joseph C. from France. Nice to see you, Joseph. Yeah. We're going to have to make a point to come to France to see you someday, Joseph, if we can. Yes? Yes. We're going to try to make a little pilgrimage. All right. We got Lebowski, James Lebowski. Always a pleasure. Yes. We got Terry from Maine. Nice to see you, honey. Very nice. We got John T. John, is this your first time or no? Yes. Your first time being here, John T. Yes. Nice. Welcome. Yes. Nice to meet you. We've got Jason from San Diego. Always a pleasure. Yeah. Cody, are you a new guy too? Nice to meet you, Cody. Yes. Hopefully you'll come back. We'll see you. We got Dale O, as always. Nice to see you, Dale. We got Kerry. There he is. Yeah. Say hello to Judith and her son. Everyone. Yeah. We got Pam B. Is this your first time here? No. Is this your first time, Pam? No. Oh, I didn't think so. Yeah. We got Dave B. Dave B is cross-pollinating. He's going from non-duality, recovery, non-duality. It's good. Remember, it's the same bee. Yeah. Different flowers, but the same bee. Yeah. We got Vanessa. Nice to see you, Vanessa, from the UK. We got Amy from Seattle. It's always nice to see Amy. Yeah. There she is, coming out of her virtual reality. We got Alex from Toronto. Oh, nice to hear from Alex again. And let's see who else is here. There's Alex. I see him a little bit there. Nice to see you, Alex. Hey, everyone, thanks. Thanks for a lively meeting. We'll see each other, I hope, soon. Again, we'll be here Saturday live at 1:30 and on Zoom Pacific time, and Tuesday and Wednesday the regular meetings next week. All right. See you. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.